Hey guys, today I want to talk about why your dog might still be reactive even though you are trying all the things. So let's dive into them. So if your dog is friendly off leash but leash reactive when he sees other dogs and plays a lot with other dogs, you probably need to spend more time on activities where your dog just coexists with other dogs. For example, a walk like this, where they just are walking and coexisting but not playing. A lot of dogs don't know how to do that because every time they see a dog, it's a major play event instead of a calm event. Another major one for me is, can your dog walk nicely on leash? If your dog pulls on leash and walks 2 meters ahead of you, then you're gonna have a really tricky time teaching your dog to not be reactive, because all you can do is pull back on the leash. So for example, these two guys are walking slightly in front of me. Now, if we imagine there's a dog in front of us, which there isn't, all I can do now is pull back. Pulling back creates more frustration on the leash, right? Which will create a bigger reaction. These two are next to me and behind me, which means if there's a dog coming in front of me, I'm gonna do this and stop and block them, and I now have time to move away. If I need to move away, make space, but I'm also telling them in that matter that, hey, I'm in charge of this situation, not you. If you can't tell your dog that because they're consistently walking ahead of you and there's consistent tension on the leash, that is a major issue when you're working with a reactive dog. Another important reason why your dog might still be reactive is because you've been led to believe that using corrections on a reactive dog is evil and not done. And I fully disagree with that, because never correcting your dog means that they think their over-the-top response is acceptable and in order. And if we're never telling them, hey, I understand you're feeling stressed or upset or overwhelmed, but this behavior is not on the table, then why would your dog stop doing what they're doing, right? If you're never telling them, enough, this is enough, snap out of it, they're gonna just keep doing it. And that brings me to another point, and that is the reason why your dog might still be reactive is because you have never corrected your dog in a way that makes sense to your dog. And with that, I mean, lots of us, when you are trying to fix these problems yourself, we think we're correcting the dog because we're maybe yanking on the leash and we're saying, no, stop. Or maybe you do the holding of the thing, you know, where you hold the dog like this, like, no, stop, quiet, don't do that. And for us, that makes sense. We're thinking, hey, this is helpful. For the dog, that makes no sense. That is not a correction. That is not communicating to your dog, I don't like it. So you need to find a way to correct your dog that tells your dog this behavior is not okay and you need to stop it. And then obviously we pair that with counter conditioning and rewarding all the good choices. But your dog needs to know when a bad choice is being made and that bad choice isn't allowed. So examples of corrections that I start with reactive dogs is always body pressure first, which is the moving into the dog. Yeah, like this. That's a body pressure correction. But I've also used a leash pop before, even though I feel like that most of the time doesn't work because dogs are so immune these days to leash pressure because they're pulling 24/7. But I have used a spray bottle correction before, or compressed air, or a rattleton, or making a loud sound. It needs to be something that your dog doesn't like, but definitely should not be petrified of, but enough to make them go backwards. Another reason that is a bit of a sensitive one is that if your dog comes from a rescue situation, there may or may not have been trauma, but often rescues embellish stories to, create a larger chance of the dog getting adopted. But what often happens is that we feel bad for the dog and therefore excuse a lot of behaviors that should not be excused. Because, oh, but he's a rescue and he had a terrible start and I feel bad doing blah 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 because he was hit by men, or he hates brooms, or he must have been hit because every time I raise my hand he's afraid. Look, that might be the case, that might not be the case. You don't know, so don't put trauma on your dog that might not actually be existing. Also, you not giving more clarity to your dog actually makes the problem bigger, right? Because you're not helping your dog by excusing behaviors and creating unrest and unclarity. Unclarity, is that a word? It actually is very helpful to say to your dog, hey, you can't do this. Just imagine a child in foster care or coming from foster care. We still have to put rules and boundaries on these kids as well, even though they have traumatic and awful past, because otherwise they derail. So you need to really have a good look at your dog's past and think about it. You've been with me for a year, 2 years, 5 years. Your dog is not going to remember in great detail what happened to him at 6 weeks old, especially if you had him from that age. Like, it's a different story if the dog is 6 and has been living for 6 years in a horrible situation and you've only had him for 2 months, right? But sometimes I have clients that had a rescue dog from 8 weeks old and now the dog is 6 and they're still saying, oh, but he's a rescue dog. Like, let go of that. You're not helping your dog. Another big reason is that you have been avoiding all potential triggers, which is a very common mistake because obviously you're stressed and every time your dog goes off it's embarrassing and you feel uncomfortable. But by constantly avoiding or following the force-free methods where they say just avoid, just walk on a different time, make sure there is always lots and lots of space in between you and whoever is the trigger, right? If that's you, then yes, you will find that your dog doesn't improve. On the flip side, if you keep putting your dog in shitty situations, your dog is also not going to improve. And with shitty situations, I mean putting your dog in a position where they are unable to be successful, like taking your dog to off-leash park or going where you know there will be a lot of dogs running up to you, or going to the Sunday morning farmers market. Like, that is not at your dog's skill level right now. If you keep putting them in that position, you are going to get no progress going forward. And I also want to point out with that, like, if you do keep setting your dog up to fail, you are eroding trust. Your dog doesn't think they can trust you in these public situations, which gives them another reason to be more reactive, right? Because either you will be like, yeah, you can come say hi to my dog, and my dog actually doesn't want to say hi to anyone, or you're putting them in a situation that you know they're going to struggle in. And every time you do that, your dog is going to be like, why the fuck did you do that to me? Like, why are you putting me in these situations? I don't trust you to take care of me in a way that I can rely on you, so I will have to solve the problem myself. And unless you start advocating for your dog in a way that makes sense to your dog, your reactivity is not going to go away. You need to be mindful that you set your dog up for success, that you don't make it too easy, which is avoid everything, and also that you don't go too hard and you don't take your dog's problem seriously, right? But this is where we go a lot with the people that go, oh, it's not even that scary and my dog just needs to deal with it. Yeah, well, I can tell you now, that is not how your dog is going to learn how to deal with it. Another super important one is you're not getting enough reps in. And with that, I mean, if you're only training your reactivity on walks and you're hoping for chance encounters with other people, that is going to make your progress super slow and super unpredictable, because you need to be relying on chance encounters, right? You don't have the chance to actually work with one dog and do 20 or 30 reps in one session, because that's where the gains are made. You want to have hundreds of repetitions where nothing happens, because that's where you teach new habits. For example, all of these dogs came to me with reactivity issues, all of them. And all of these dogs I worked with extensively walking past other dogs, and now I use this group of dogs to do that with other ones. So sometimes I meet up with a client and I have 6 dogs with me and we spend the whole hour passing dogs. I take one by one out of the car, take them out of the car, practice, practice, practice. All right, next one. And we just keep repeating. Because the more you repeat, the better your dog gets at it. And the problem is if you rely on chance encounters, like for example, this walk, I've seen 2 other dogs and I walked by them once. And you know, sometimes people are afraid of your dog, or they have a reactive dog as well, and then you don't even get enough reps in. So that is a major thing. It's really important if you're able to set up somehow training sessions with friends' dogs, or ask on a local community page, does anyone want to help me with this? Because this takes hundreds or thousands of reps. Oh, and those reps are not just for your dog, they're also really important for you to get your handling skills right and to get your reflexes and responses right. So you know what to do without even thinking about it. Another important one is that you're not using the right equipment. I'm not going to tell you what is the right equipment because it's different for every dog, but I do find that when I come to a client's house to work with their reactive dog, 9 out of 10 times this dog is on a harness. The clip is either at the front where I feel I can't steer the dog, or it's on their back, but like halfway down their body. That means when your dog starts lunging or barking and it's hanging into it, it's super comfortable, but you also can't steer them away, because when I want to do a tight turn on a harness like that, it's just really difficult and you're not getting a really quick, snappy result. So even just working on a flat collar, slip leash has my preference, but I understand not everyone wants to use that. But even a flat collar, so you can actually steer the dog by the neck instead of having to steer them from halfway down their back, is really, really helpful. And another important one is that you have unrealistic expectations of your dog. And with that is, if you want your dog to be friends with every single dog, it's just not gonna happen, okay? Dogs have preferences, just like humans have preferences. I like certain people, I don't like certain people, and I don't have a reason for it. Some people just give off bad juju, and I don't want to hang out with them instantly, right? And I think everyone has that. But dogs have that too. And to expect your dog to be friends with everyone is just gonna set yourself up for disappointment. Having said that, that doesn't mean your dog can go off and be rude, right? It's the same like I have to go to the dentist. I don't like going to the dentist, but I can't be rude to the dentist. So the same with dogs. You cannot like this dog, but that doesn't mean you can go off at this dog. So again, also expectations. If your dog is an anxious mess about 24/7, that dog is probably not going to be suitable to take to the farmer's market or take to a brewery or take to a place where there's 30 kids running around. Like, not all dogs enjoy that. Again, that brings me back to the point. Stop putting your dog in situations that set them up to fail. Like, that's on you. That's not on your dog. Alright guys, so these are my reasons why I think your dog might still be reactive. I think especially the correction one, the expectations, and not getting enough reps in are the most major ones. Let me know if this video was helpful for you. If you want actual help with your reactivity, make sure to check out my reactivity playlist. And if you need any help, you can always message me, email me, contact me on socials, wherever is easiest for you. All right, see you next time.